Welcome to Forward Facing.
I'm Andee Hastings.
I'm Mali Shadmary,
We are the founding partners of Hastings Shadmary Family Law.
an Atlanta-based law firm with a deep commitment to our clients, our community, and our team, whom we call the Wolf Pack.
We are lawyers
We are also business owners,
partners,
bosses,
and best friends. Every day we work towards self-growth and mutual development.
Our 4 decades of combined experience gives us a distinct perspective on work, business, and how to navigate some of life's toughest situations.
We want to pass on what we have learned, introduce you to like-minded guests, and share our philosophies on staying positive and moving forward.
Forward Facing is your inspiration to evolve.
Hello and welcome to Forward Facing. Mali Shadmary here with my co-host, Andee Hastings.
Good morning, everyone. So good to see you.
And we are joined today by a guest named Kendall Carter, who we have been dying for you guys to meet. He's an esteemed colleague of ours. He's going to be chatting with us today on AI, how he has utilized AI and seen it.
Kendall is one of those people that if he's on your team, you're safe. He's going to follow through on his word. He's going to have your back. He's a professional. I met him at a Forsyth County bar meeting on one random day.
Yep.
We were kind of dwindling in numbers. The organization we were working on gelling. We needed some new leadership and we needed help. And from what I remember, we met at a bar meeting out over at the restaurant at Tam's, and you were like, I would like to get involved. Tell me how I can help, kind of a thing. And I was like, well. And he fell into the treasurer role pretty much immediately and helped whip us into shape. But it's far more than just the treasurer role that Kendall had. But over the years, I've gotten to benefit from Kendall's knowledge in the industry and his creative ways of approaching things and just the camaraderie that we have. So it's really an honor to have you here today. Thank you.
I really appreciate you guys hosting me. It's very gracious that you invite me on your podcast. It's all, I mean, the production value is astounding. I feel like the belle of the ball. I'm really looking forward to the conversation. And this is just, Mali, you've hit correctly kind of on a theme in my life, and that, like, you know, you kind of get opportunities as you sort of encounter them. And I make jokes all the time about, like, I just went to a random meeting of the Forsyth County Bar Association one day because I wanted lunch, and then I ended up with the checkbook, right? And so thankfully you're an excellent judge of character, and I have
and you too. You trusted me too.
Yes, of course.
Who is this girl?
We jumped in and kind of got things going and handed off really well from my predecessor Mallory Pierce.
Yeah, and Andee, you've gotten to meet Kendall along the way. And
I know.
Learn about his expertise. So Kendall, let's dive in. Tell our audience, and in addition to being a lawyer, he's a family man, he's a husband, he's a dad, he does it all. So tell us about you and how you got into law and where you started.
That reminds me of a quote my wife is fond of saying. She says, you can have it all, just not all at once. Right? Bandwidth is a thing, right?
Yes, it is.
There's a finite amount of frequencies.
It's hard to
kind of
learn.
in the spectrum, right? And so, I'm trying to, I don't want to go back too far, right?
Yeah.
But I did my legal education at Tulane University in New Orleans. And just principally because I love New Orleans and, kind of identify with it
What's
culturally.
your favorite New Orleans food?
My favorite New Orleans food?
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough to pick, right? You don't have to pick just one. I would say I'm going to go oyster po' boy.
Yum.
Fried oyster po' boy is about the best thing.
Anyway, so we're graduating from Tulane.
Yeah.
All
Graduated
right.
from Tulane and then went to D.C. To just kind of try my hand and maybe just being an intern like in Congress or something like that. And then
No big deal.
Right. Worked a bunch of odd jobs there because that was about the time of the dot-com bust. And then got a job with the district attorney's office in Fulton County until about 2005. And then hung out my shingle. And so I had a general practice and a criminal defense practice until about 2009. And then after that, I worked, I got a job with King & Spalding. One of my dear friends, one of my groomsmen, is a partner at King & Spalding now, but started in their discovery practice. where they would just chew through massive amounts of discovery, both in review of what had been produced and review of documents to be produced for privilege and relevancy, et cetera. And so, I helped represent like Toyota and like Bank of America and some really huge companies in that, which was a really good education. But then after a couple of years doing that, they found out that I knew how to litigate, and so they
found out a secret weapon.
Exactly. So they brought me up up the
funny.
street to kind of the main office and put me on was part of a team representing Equifax across the United States. So I was with that team at King & Spalding representing Equifax until about 2019. And then my wife started her own marketing agency. It's called a Crescent Marketing LLC.
And his wife is brilliant and beautiful.
She kind of is. It's a little intimidating on a day-to-day basis, but I'm thankful every day. She's fantastic, and I really have learned more from her than any other human. So I'm really thankful for her every day.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love it.
And so then, maybe about 2.5 years ago, I started working with my current firm, which is called Aspire Law. And we're kind of a fractional general counsel type of outfit, but our concentrations are in advertising and marketing compliance, now that I have that experience in my life, and also data privacy and security. So
talk to us about how you got involved with AI in the law and when that started.
Yeah, and I think that, having represented a large data company, it's just kind of something that I understood, just having been immersed in it for so long. I'm not a technologist. I don't have a computer science degree or anything like that, but having seen the facts and seen the testimony and talked to clients over the years that are involved in that sector, it just made sense to me, right? And so I've always been a kind of an early adopter of technology anyway. And so, that's really how I got into talking about this more and more. And I think last year we had our Privacy and Technology Law Forum, and I developed this talk on AI and legal ethics, kind of like how does the use of AI.
I've gotten to see that presentation.
Right, I've given it to the Forsyth County Bar. I've given it to a number of local bars, and so I freely share that presentation with anybody who wants to give a CLE on legal ethics, because that ethics and or professionalism hour can be elusive. So if anybody needs the presentation, I'm happy to share it.
Come on over.
Just give me a little shout out at the end, put me in the credits, and we'll call it even. Right? But the message is bigger than me. I'm not the author of everything when it comes into all of this. And of course, kind of through our the work at the firm at Aspire, we get questions about that sort of thing all the time. Like, how does this sort of intersect where we want to do business, right? What are our obligations? What are our rights, as individual consumers, but more particularly as businesses that are adopting this type of technology more and more.
Something that we hear about a lot that we deal with is lawyers using AI to create their work, their briefs, and those sorts of things.
Oh, yeah.
So have you had exposure to that? Do people talk to you about that?
I keep an eye on what happens, like just through like Law 360 and things like that.
The way I've kind of looked at the issue of AI, I mean, there's so many different components, but there's the attorney-facing AI issues. Meaning, how do attorneys responsibly use AI? How are we not utilizing AI optimally? And what do we need to look out for there? How can clients best use AI? But also, client, how do you need to be careful when you're using AI, when you're working with your lawyers? So what do you see are the biggest issues in that department?
Well, I think that's summed up by, like I said before, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. One of the other directives I got from Paul Howard at the beginning of my practice was, don't do anything that's going to put you on the cover of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution.
Yes. Oh,
right?
Lord.
Ask yourself in practicing your, on your case, is what I'm doing something that's going to end up on the AJC, and how would my mom feel about reading that, right? So, I see that pop up. Like it feels like at least once a week, or maybe 3 to 5 times a week now, you see something come up where a lawyer is getting sanctioned for using AI to draft briefs wholesale and cite cases wholesale.
Meaning they're just saying, hey, ChatGPT or whatever, spit me out a brief with these issues.
It could be
then they're just filing it.
Correct. It could be ChatGPT, but like even like Copilot, which is part of the Microsoft Office suite, which is shout out to Tim Cook. Microsoft is fantastic. I use it all the time. I think Copilot's fantastic, but you still have to read what it puts out, right?
Yeah,
you got to read it, right? And you got to understand it, and you got to understand, hey, this case exists or doesn't, and this citation is correct or isn't, and this case actually says what's in the parenthetical or doesn't, right? Before you file it, right? That's like the baseline, right? You can't file anything that you either don't know is true or should know is not true.
So, okay, so it sounds like one of the big issues is lawyers not checking the citations that the program spits out for them.
Yeah.
And that's the main issue. How do you see lawyers best utilize AI in their practice to optimize?
I think really it comes with kind of systemizing repetitive tasks.
Okay.
Right? To where, like, anything you could delegate to a paralegal, you can kind of treat AI like, say, like a high school intern that understands how to use Microsoft Word really well.
But maybe not synthesize information.
Correct.
And put nuances on it.
They could give you a shell for like a motion to suppress.
Yeah.
That's reasonably approximating something you might want to file, right? But it still needs hours worth of work, right?
Yes.
In research and writing and all of that stuff. But I think people get into trouble where they start to treat it like a senior level paralegal, where it's almost like if you've been lucky in your career to work with a paralegal that is that good,
right?
To be like, that is fantastic. I
Right.
feel like I don't even have to look at this
Right.
before you sign my name and file it. Trick is you still
We
need
always
to
do.
read that
Yes.
Yeah, you do. Yes, you do.
and make sure before they sign it and file it, right? Because they're non-lawyer staff, right? There's a ethical rule that requires us to have that level of understanding.
Okay.
Because for every 50 times they do it perfectly, there could be one where it's horrifically incorrect, right?
And it's our names.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, one way that I've used it, so tell me if this is good or bad. You can slap me on the wrist
Sure.
if needed. I've got clients going into an interview with a guardian ad litem coming up, and they want some pointers on how this is going to go and some ideas that they could talk about in general coaching. I have used ChatGPT so I can say out loud, here's what I want to show this client, and I can like specify some things about their case. And then it will spit out like a Word version of that I could send to my client, and I will usually zhuzh it up, change some things around, and save those notes to the file to help us and the clients find it very useful. And I can complete that in a matter of 10 minutes or less, as opposed to if I wasn't using that resource, it would have taken me an hour to draft work product like that.
Definitely. No, I've used it in a similar circumstance.
Okay.
I've not done many depositions here in the last few years, but it used to be that was like the biggest time draw for me, was to pull all the documents together, review everything, and then create kind of your outline of questions and kind of how it's going to go. But I would have somewhere to start because I had done, hundreds of them before. Where I think it's valuable now, where I would use it is I would be like, okay, take the outline from the last deposition I did, and then you'll say, okay, on top of that, here's all of the key documents I want to use as exhibits. Integrate questions in this outline about each of these exhibits, and it comes out like scarily close to what I probably would have produced if I sat and did it myself. Right, it is. It's fantastic. It's a gigantic time saver for like basically lawyer administrative tasks.
Yeah.
Like that would be kind of, those would be billable in the past.
Right.
It's a direct finance savings to the client.
I have sensed from some lawyers a fear around using AI to optimize because it takes away from my billable time.
Yeah.
In my mind, my philosophy on it is we need to use these tools. We need to be smart about it and understand what the weaknesses could be and not just dive in face first, really do our research and fill it out. But if you are able to more quickly finish your work, you can then as a lawyer be able to take that work product and make it something even more magnificent, develop your case strategy even deeper. These are the things when we are spending as litigators so much time just fiddling with outlines and reworking the order of things. That is taking away from our ability to get deep into the law and deep into the facts to put our polish on it that AI can't do. So to me, the billable work is still there, but it's actually providing to the client a better work product because your lawyer's able to go and pay attention to the beautiful things that you really need to go out litigate another side.
Yeah.
It creates more time in the prep process for us to be able to do that, which is huge for clients and in our society and for the practice of law. That's what I think. What do y'all think?
I think that that's spot on. I think that you really, those savings have to be passed on to the client just in terms of dollars and cents. But the real benefit to the client is better representation. Either you're able to churn through more individual matters that are somewhat repetitive, or you're really able to dive in and serve the client and tell the story.
Yeah.
The best lawyers I've met in this profession are those who like to serve their clients and those who like to tell a story.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, if you can do that more persuasively than the next person, then either in service or in storytelling,
Right.
that makes you vastly successful. Your clients will refer you because like, this guy is fantastic. He actually listens.
That's right.
This guy is or this girl is fantastic. She actually advocates. Right? That's the business. It's not the hour that's the point of the profession.
Absolutely.
It's the service for me.
Yeah.
Right? It's
the quality of what's going into that hour.
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, if it helps you serve the client and it helps you tell the client's story, that's really what it's all about.
And I think good lawyers have to be able to grow with the times
100%.
and be open to utilizing new resources.
Yeah, you must. Otherwise, your opponent will use it against you, right?
Absolutely.
And you know, it will show in the quality of your work product.
So can we go back to the pitfalls for just a minute?
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's a real danger zone in there, not just for lawyers, but also for clients. We've seen cases where lawyers have cited fake cases in their briefs because AI put that out.
Yeah.
So I guess first thought about that is, why does AI do that? Why does it give us these fake shadow citations and things like that? Because I think that helps us to understand why we need to be so careful.
Yeah. Yeah, so again, I'll say that I'm not a computer scientist. I'm not a
But you
computer
know
engineer.
everything.
I know. There's vast amounts of things that I don't know, right? That's vast amounts of things. But as near as I can tell, based on what I've read, all AI, like be it agents or large language models, is sort of based on the idea of the large language model, right? And the large language model is essentially a computer that has been programmed to take in massive amounts of print data, right? Letters and words in sequence, organized into paragraphs with headings, et cetera, et cetera. And based on what it takes in, it then makes an educated guess or a prediction as to what the next word in a sentence should be, right? It's nothing more than that, just repeated millions and millions of times over, right? In order to be, as prolific as it is. That's really what the computer is doing. It's digesting information and it is guessing what the next word in the sentence should be. So when it uses, I believe that this was probably the case, that when it is asked to produce a legal document, it takes everything that it understands as legal document as a base set of data, and it makes predictions of what you want it to say based on everything that appears in all those other documents. It's going to give you something that looks like a citation, but that citation may not even actually exist, right? It'll give you numbers, and it can give you a Blue Book citation formatted for Blue Book. It'll look perfect, but the case doesn't actually exist.
And what happens when lawyers rely on that? They don't go through and fact check it, read the actual cases and those sorts of things, because we've seen that, unfortunately.
Yeah. So I mean, really, if you go so far as to file that before a court, you're violating not just the duty of competence, which is an ethical rule. I think it's 1.1, and then you're also violating the duty of candor to the tribunal. Right? You're lying to the court. You're saying that something exists that doesn't exist, and if you catch it before the court catches it, immediately pick up the phone or email and fall on the sword, right? You can see a pattern in the cases that involve sanctions to where there's like a sliding scale of like, okay, this lawyer caught the problem, notified the court, and I'm going to fine you $1,000, right? And then there's the lawyer that doubles down that the case actually exists after the clerk brings it to the judge's attention. The judge files a show cause order. And at the show cause hearing, the lawyer doubles down. And then
That is crazy.
then again, it
That's
just
terrible.
it compounds and compounds. And so then
Yes.
you're looking at tens of thousands of dollars in sanctions, if not more. But I think the largest one I've seen has been in, kind of in the $10,000 to $15,000 range in terms of sanctions, all in. But then, there are other firms, like, to their credit, I'll sing their praises again and again. Not that, John Morgan needs more advertising, but Morgan & Morgan had a case out in Wyoming where their local council had this issue. The District of Wyoming judge filed, sent in a show cause order, and they immediately rectified it. And they immediately fell on the sword, like all the way up the ladder to Jacksonville, to their headquarters. They were like, we should not have filed that. We will immediately send a replacement filing. We're sorry, right? But even then, they're looking at thousands of dollars in sanctions, right? But, that's part of
As the
that's part of
client,
this,
you'd
right?
be you wouldn't trust your attorney as much anymore too. Oh,
Yeah.
what a nightmare.
Yeah, like there's a case called Mata versus Avianca Airlines, which is kind of one of the first reported cases about this instance. It's called hallucination, right? Case hallucination. And the lawyer in that case kind of doubled down, but at the end of the day, he kind of came and did a mea culpa to the court. So the court levied sanctions against him, and part of the sanctions were, not only did you cite these cases that didn't exist, but you cited cases that didn't exist that were purported to come from judges who are currently on the bench in other districts. So you must send a letter of apology to each of the 6 judges you have misquoted,
That's
and
wild.
provide a copy of the sanctions order and apologize. Right?
That's wild.
So, yeah,
And I love the precedent they set there. Like, no, you cannot do this. There are repercussions.
absolutely,
We're going to follow through on this.
absolutely.
So something I feel like we see, and I'm interested to know if your thoughts on it, and if you see it too, is obviously our clients now are going to AI to ask questions that they want to ask us, and then they'll come to us with what they find, the information they garner. And sometimes it gives the hallucination responses and those sorts of things.
Right.
And so, my experience is that it can create some potential, this may not be the right word, tension between the client and the lawyer, because they've gone and done this research in AI and gotten this information that looks spot on, accurate. And so there's this kind of delicate road that we walk, so to speak, to help them understand points in it that are fine, that we agree with, but there are things that are not, because like you said, it's a computer. It's just trying to anticipate the answer to your question.
Right. Especially if you have an agent that you work with on a regular basis, the agent can learn what types of things you ask about, and it can give you the response that it thinks you would prefer, right? It's custom tailored to you. It's not custom tailored to like an objective truth, right?
Right.
So helping a client understand that is not easy, especially when they're emotional, right?
Exactly.
You are usually meeting clients on one of their worst days, right? And that is hard. That took me a long time to learn. Is like, why are you so upset? Like, let's just be reasonable, right?
Yeah.
No. It's like
They're not
their
seeing it
world
that
is
way.
falling apart, right? Their world is falling apart. And then like, you just basically, there's this great book, and I read it probably once a year or so. And it's called Never Split the Difference by a guy named Chris Voss. He used to be an FBI negotiator, was an NYPD cop, but he's got this whole idea of radical empathy, right? In order to negotiate with somebody, you've got to understand them,
Yes.
right? And you've got to help them understand that it is in their interest to negotiate with you, and ideally to give you what you want so you can give them some of what they want, right? And I think it's just like that in a client, like an initial client meeting. And you've got to understand where that client is coming from and help educate them. If you can work that into your initial consultation to, okay, let's see what you've got from ChatGPT. And I'll tell you where it might be wrong. Not that I'll tell you how it is wrong.
Right.
Because, even a blind squirrel finds a nut now and then, right?
Right.
And a lot of what you get out of ChatGPT or whatever engine you're using, it's mostly correct, right? It will sound convincing. But you'd be like, hey, well, that actually looks like a pretty good theory. Here's how you would put that into practice. And here's how we can help you. Right?
Well, and there's so many nuances pertaining to who the judge is in the case, who are the personalities, who's the opposing counsel, the guardian, how do we know our audience needs to see these things so that human touch is never going to be, taken over by the AI, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Some ways that I've seen AI be beneficial in my cases with my clients has been things like organizational, summaries. Here's a summary of the events that happened in my case. Here's a summary of all the evidence that I think that I have. And I do think that that's been a plus. If they're not, my clients aren't depending on ChatGPT or AI for case strategy or nuances in the law, but using it more as a planning tool and a way to organize thoughts, I have seen an improvement in my client's organization, and it appears to be the way that they are processing information for us, because that is a huge cost in family law cases because of what you're saying. The emotion's so high, I can't organize my thoughts. All I see is red right now. I'm livid or whatever it is. To have this resource to help them process and then get us information, I think that's the best way clients can use AI.
That's phenomenal. That's actually, if you can, because goodness, I've read my fair share of page upon page of block unindented text.
Oh, yeah.
Right, with capital letters in it, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yep.
Right. But any way you can help them organize those thoughts and come to a conclusion that, they can kind of see makes sense is a tool you should use.
Right. Or utilizing it to, if you have questions for your lawyer, use ChatGPT to help you organize, I need to get this information and here's what I need from my lawyer. I do find that ChatGPT can help bridge that communication gap when someone's freezing up a little bit and get questions in one place. Because we see that's one cost-saving tool in family law, especially where clients are just up at every hour of the night thinking about all the what-ifs. They found this online. They have a friend that this happened in their case. And to synthesize it into one area for your lawyer and send it kind of all at once, it does help your bill rather than just sending one email every hour and having different communication threads. It's very helpful, I think, to synthesize in buckets, and cost saving is definitely a component of that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
What about this Shahid versus Essam case? I think it was a family law case. Can you tell us about that one?
Yes. So that was a case in the Court of Appeals. I think that was dealt with back in June or July of last year. And so what happened in that case was, in the course of motions practice in the Superior Court, one of the lawyers filed hallucinated cases into a brief that they submitted to the court. And the court ruled favorably on that brief and then recited those hallucinated cases in its decision that was then appealed to the Court of Appeals. And then that same lawyer that cited those cases that did not exist recited the cases that did not exist to the Court of Appeals. And the Court of Appeals figured it out, right? And show cause order, right, and sanctions, and they ended up, they provided the largest sanctions that the rules of the Court of Appeals would have allowed at the time, which was $2,500. Now, not only does the lawyer have an issue, right, certainly with their license to practice before the Court of Appeals, now the Court of Appeals is going to look at every decision that comes out of that courtroom with a question mark, right, at least partially.
Nightmare.
Yeah, absolute nightmare for all involved.
I don't know if it's generational, not to jump on the generation bandwagon, but when we go to court for prepare to present an argument or something, I print all of the cases and copies, and I highlight where it says what I say it says in the brief. So maybe it's just because I'm too anal about it, or
no, you do it right, Andee. That's what we should be doing.
I think that's a differentiator, right? I think that's probably what makes you really good at this, is that not only are you going to make a compelling argument, but you've got the cards, right? You're not just bluffing, right? You're not just arguing.
No, I want to win.
Right. There was so much in mock trial that talked about how confidence counts, how poise counts, and it does count, but that is secondary.
Yeah.
Really, at the end of the day, right? Because you've got to tell the truth first.
Yep.
Right. Without that, everything is lost.
one of my original mentors, Cotter Bay, who we've talked about before when I was a prosecutor, taught me to do that and just pounded it into my head and my whole career. So now I just can't even, I guess my point was I'm struggling to understand how a brief would end up getting filed without it being looked at. I'm not, disparaging or anything, but my brain just is wired so differently that because, we've had a huge part of the career where there wasn't AI at all. It wasn't even an option. So
we were going to libraries, the law library, to find
looking at books
about law.
I remember a day, so one of the lawyers I worked with at King & Spalding was a guy named Barry Goheen. He explained to me that he was trained by what he termed a harsh grader, right? And that is the most negative thing I ever heard him say about a harsh boss in my time working with him. And that's to his credit, right? And by his own account, though, Barry Goheen was a harsh grader, right? And you have to have this right. You have to have this right because you can't make an argument for a client who's paying you hundreds of dollars an hour that has that sort of a simple flaw in it. That's something that's completely within your control.
Your reputation and your credibility as a lawyer is more important than anything else. The second you make a misstep and lead a judge in the wrong direction, you are putting you're putting their ass on the line. Because if they agree with you and they write a court order that said, I agree with Ms. Shadmary, the law said this, she said so, that gets appealed, goes up to the Court of Appeals, and the Court of Appeals says, no, guys, y'all are wrong. The judge is now forever, for all of eternity, every time I step in his or her courtroom, they're going to say, Mali Shadmary once gave me the wrong law. I depended on it. It was appealed.
That's the Shaheed case. Exactly.
That's the Shaheed case, right? So now it's not only an issue between that lawyer and that judge. It's an issue between that lawyer and every judge in that courthouse, or every judge in that circuit, and every judge on the Court of Appeals. And now it's an issue between that trial judge and every judge on that circuit and every Court of Appeals judge.
It's dangerous because you're taking clients with you into that courtroom depending on your credibility. And what we like to tell our clients is you are safe as soon as we step foot into that courtroom because this judge knows that this firm will stop at nothing to do what's right, to bring the right work product, and goes above and beyond. And so I think this topic of AI, it's going to actually continue to separate the winners from the losers. This was always here. There were always those lawyers that didn't come with the case law. We all know them, that they just show up and they argue whatever they think can stick. But now it's taken to an even more heightened level with this crutch of AI, and I think it's going to continue to separate the different types of lawyers.
Yeah. It's a point counterpoint now. We're in kind of an arms race, I would imagine, I will guarantee you that the Georgia Supreme Court administrative, sort of apparatus and the U.S. Office of the U.S. Courts Administrator apparatus is rapidly trying to figure out how to identify these before it even gets to the clerk's hands, right? Yeah. Because there's so much coming at them that they need that computerized assistance, right? Yeah. And I'm struck. I was just reading about this before I came over. But one of my pet things that I like to keep track of is just Warren Buffett, the life of Warren Buffett. And so when Warren Buffett took over Salomon Brothers in the 1990s, and he kind of summed up, his attitude as the new chairman as, if you cost money for the firm, I will be understanding. If you cost this firm a shred of its integrity, I will be ruthless, right? Because that's what you trade on. Yeah, that's what you trade on, right? If you're wrong, be the first to admit it, right?
Yes, exactly.
We're all human, right? We all make mistakes, right? It is no sin to be mistaken. Yes. It's a sin to know that there is a mistake and say nothing, right?
Mm-hmm. Can you just stay all day?
Yes.
Sadly, I cannot. Sadly, I must
of information.
Turn my attention elsewhere. But this is great. This is fantastic. I hope it was useful.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, we always like to sort of sum things up at Forward Facing, talking about our growth as individuals. That's what this podcast is all about, is about evolution. And as human beings, what this life journey is like, and the trials and tribulations and the strength and the tenacity it takes to be forward-facing even during dark times. So we always like to check in here at the end with us, and then we'll check in with you about
That'll give me time to think something up.
Yes. For me and Andee, we say in the past week, what have you done that's forward facing? How have you evolved in the past week? For you, it could be just in general. But yeah, Andee, tell us what's been going on.
So I found myself saying this phrase repeatedly in different situations to different people, our people here, and it just keeps coming up. And it's nothing earth-shattering. I just keep saying it's a marathon, not a sprint. And it applies to everything. And so, but I have to remind myself, part of the reason I say it out loud is because I have to remind myself, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, and that seems so simple, but, we get caught up in the speed of life, and it's very easy to forget. And it feels like all we're doing is sprinting. So that's been my thing, is to just really try to step back and remind myself of that, as I'm able to very easily remind the people around me. So helpful. So yeah, that's been something, interestingly, that's just been my focus for the last several, days.
Love
weeks
that.
and stuff. What about you?
Love that. I would say mine is similar. But my example is from the gym, but the gym and bodybuilding, it teaches me so much. So this can be applied anywhere. But for the past several weeks, I was having very weak workouts, really like hormonally, probably struggling a little bit. My levels are changing, whatever. And I had terrible workouts. And that's a lot of my identity, and what makes me feel whole as a person is knowing I'm putting in the work. And so this couple days ago, I had this great leg workout, and I was lifting just as heavy as I was back in June of last year. And since June, I had to go down in weight because prepping for my shows and everything, everything's different. Your strength is different. And that messed with my mind a good bit. And I'm in this phase now where I'm eating a lot of food. I'm supposed to be putting on tissue, muscle in my lower body. That's the goal. And I finally had this workout this week that was one of those game changers. I was like, whoa, I'm almost hitting PRs for my whole life. Like, this is awesome. And I am still hurting from that workout. I'm not
that's
recovered.
the penguin workout.
It's the penguin workout. It tore me apart inside. And that was the goal. And with workouts like that, the goal, it's going to take you longer to recover. A marathon, not a sprint. You have to refuel, be patient, and you'll come back stronger next week. Next week, I'll probably be able to put up more weight because of what I just did. Rip that muscle apart, let it repair, let it grow. That's how we grow tissue. And in life, I feel that it's very similar. That pain yields beauty, and beauty in any way, not aesthetic, whatever it is that you're looking for. For me, it's very mental. I want to have the results from putting in the work, but you have to be patient, and you have to let yourself heal. You have to put in the work in the healing. It's not just about when you're bright and shiny in the gym and putting up the weight. It's how you take care of yourself before, after. Give yourself time to recover so you can go do another workout. And I think it just really applies to life. Just staying patient and waiting for those great opportunities, getting through a few weeks of hard workouts, and then having that stellar one, and then you got to heal from it and reap the benefits later. Just applies to life for me. I think our firm, we have the same pattern in a lot of the things we go through every week in continuing to grow. So I'm just carrying that with me right now, the mentality that's helped me sort of, surround myself with, of patience and hard work and doing things by the book, doing it properly to achieve my goals. And so, yeah, that's been my sort of thing I'm sitting on right now. So,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
marathon, not a sprint, for sure. What about you,
Yeah, no,
Kendall?
absolutely. No, I love the theme of. It seems like even though yours was about working out really hard, I sense there was a theme of rest, right? You have to have a little a scotch of rest in there in between.
Yes,
right?
it's hard.
And like I ran so far for so long, not as far as others or as long as others, but long enough for me, right? That it became hard to give myself any rest, right? I felt like I was lazy, right?
Yes.
I felt like I was lazy, right? And the truth was I was just tired,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And it's okay, right?
That's
To
right.
be tired, but just rest when you're tired.
That's part
right?
of your job.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
hard to learn.
Absolutely, it is.
hard.
So I've kind
Yeah.
of put that hand in glove with, I recently got baptized after, growing up in the church. I go to a Gwinnett church and just felt the call and to get baptized and started leading a men's group, like a young men's group, and it's been really fantastic. But I find like the more I kind of lean into this, the better everything gets. Is that the notion is that there's one commandment. As I have loved you, as Jesus has loved us, so we are to love one another, right? And that means putting aside what I want, putting aside what I would rather do, and doing the hard thing for somebody else, right? Even when it costs me, you know? And trusting God and doing that, that's enough to concentrate on, because that's a lot, right? That's really what I've been trying to drive at.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That is beautiful. And in our relationship, I've seen that that's how you are. You are a very good example of that. Doing unto others and leading by example, putting in the work when we don't have the bandwidth or you don't think you do. It's reprioritizing where your bandwidth should be.
Yeah.
What energy you put out there and what you attract back.
Definitely.
I love the spirituality of that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
with
no,
us.
of course. And I'm pretty sure that this was not Shakespeare who said this, but he's got a lot of Bible in Shakespeare if you read Shakespeare. But I think it was a college band I used to listen to. It was like all the best song lyrics are in the Bible, right? It's like usually there's something in the Bible that has said what I want to say, you know.
Yes.
Right.
So, you know, it works out.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing your wealth of wisdom with us. And thank you to our audience for joining us. We are so thankful to have you. And be sure to follow us on all of our socials. We have a new website, forwardfacing.com, that has launched. So check that out. It's beautiful. It's got an area if you want to message us. If you'd like to come on the show, we'd love to have you. So reach out, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please like, subscribe, and share. We would love to hear your thoughts. Leave us a comment or email us at podcast@hsfamilylaw.com. And be sure to come find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and at our website, forwardfacing.com.
Forward Facing is a production of Hastings Shad Mary Family Law and 1066 Productions. It is produced and edited by Ned Hastings.